What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rideshare Hub. My name's Greg. What I'm doing for you guys today is when to drive Uber versus when to drive Lyft. Now, I have a really kind of cool story about how I really learned about this recently a lot more. So I really wanted to do a video on this for you guys because it made me a lot more money than I probably would have made if I hadn't learned this lesson. So yeah, let's dive right into it. But right before we get going, I just wanted to tell you guys real quick about OCTOPUS. Awesome service. This company sends you a tablet for free. You give it to your passengers. They play games in the back seat. They don't bother you as a driver, and you make even more money when they're playing it. So great thing. OCTOPUS. Check it out ASAP. Link in the description. Go kill it, guys. Make that money. All right, so when to drive Uber versus when to drive Lyft. For me, you guys, if you've listened to my videos, you know, I'm very pro Uber. I'm like, if you are going to drive, you're just going to make more money on Uber. 99% of the time, you're probably going to make more money on Uber. That might vary by market. I don't know every market. It's been true in every market I've worked in. I've always made a significantly, more massive amount of money. That was weird. I've always made way more money on Uber than I have Lyft. And the biggest reason is, and Lyft admits this too, they've had interviews where they admits this, Uber has a way bigger customer base. So I learned this the other day. I had this huge weekend quest on Uber, and I was super amped about it. It was 60 rides for an additional $180 or something. It was something really good. So I got all excited. I went out to work, and it was for a weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I wasn't really getting Uber rides. I was like, well, this is weird. Normally, I just knew, normally I never have to wait more than 10 minutes for a ride, and usually it's under 5, but I was waiting upwards of 20 minutes for a ride. And whenever I have a big quest, I never run Lyft. I want to do only Uber rides and build towards that quest, because an additional 180 for 60 rides, 60 rides is already going to make you good money. And then to throw another 180 on top of that, I'm like, man, that's killer, you know? It does take a little bit of grinding to hit those quests. I remember the last one I did was, again, for 60 rides. And I know I worked 12 hours on Friday, only 6 to 8 on Saturday, and then another 10 to 12 on Sunday to get those 60 rides. So, you got to really hustle for them. But if you have the weekend off, it's a great way to make close to $1,000 in a weekend, you know, if you have that big quest. So I get really excited about those. But this time I wasn't getting any rides. And so then I almost accidentally turned Lyft back on, and I got a ride immediately, under 30 seconds of having the app on. So I was like, you know what, whatever, Uber's slow anyways. I'll just go do a few Lyft rides, see if it picks up. Well, what happened was it never picked up. And I was getting back-to-back Lyft rides, which rarely happens to me, where I get a ride request before I've even completed the ride. It probably happened for the first 10 rides. I had a ride already ready to go. And then what I realized is that Lyft had a few bonuses that weekend. I was like, that's weird. I haven't seen a bonus from Lyft in a while. And it wasn't anything decent, like crazy like the Uber Quest, but it was give 5 consecutive rides and you get an additional $25. That's having a $5 surge on 5 rides. That's a great thing to do. And I was giving him so fast that I hit that bonus in 2 hours. And then there was one later. So what ended up happening is I didn't work Sunday, but I worked most of the day Friday and Saturday, and I made a really good amount of money. I think I did $550 in 2 days on Lyft, and in very minimal hours. I was averaging about $25 an hour. That's a solid day, especially for Lyft. So I started thinking about why this happened. I was like, now this doesn't even make sense. Why was Lyft so powerful? Well, I started realizing, and I remember I used to say this about concerts and NFL games, NBA, more NFL games than anything, but a lot of times what happens is Uber promotes these events, and it says huge earnings for this game when it lets out. And so what happens is then there's like probably an extra 500 drivers or so. I mean, God only knows, but that will see that, and they haven't even driven for Uber in a year, but maybe that month they happen to be short on bills, but maybe they just know it could be a really powerful night. So they're like, you know what, I'm going to go do some Uber tonight. It's been like 3 months, but I'm going to give it a shot because there's this big event going on and I could make some good money. And so they go out, and now there's all these additional Uber drivers out. And what happens is then there's not too much surging. It's not that busy. And it's like just like more like driving on a weekday. And it happens every now and then on weekends. I've noticed it. Not super often, but for really big events, this happens. So I think this quest was big enough that it brought out a lot of people that don't normally drive for Uber or Lyft. And really, they probably just drive for Uber because they only drive like every 6 months or so. So when I turned Lyft on, it was popping off the planet. I like literally couldn't believe it. And like, I don't normally have good Lyft days. I haven't had good Lyft days since like, I don't know how many of you guys know this about me. I actually started with Lyft, and I did Lyft only for probably like 6 months before I got Uber. But I was doing just Lyft. I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. And at the time, Lyft was monstrous. Like, you didn't need Uber because they had the power drive bonus. True vets will remember that. And the power drive bonus was sick. It was like, okay, if you drive, or this week, if you give 30 peak rides, which was like rush hour times and weekends, and if then like 90 rides total, you get like an additional 20% of what you made in that week. I used to love the power drive bonus because if I drove a relatively full-time week, I would hit all of those numbers easily. And so a lot of times I would make close to $1,000 in a week for like 45 hours, and then I would get a 20% bonus off of my earnings. And so that was usually an extra $250, if not more. So I was like making like 12 to 1300 a week working literally 40 to 45 hours. Why would I do Uber? You know, it was incredible back then. I honestly miss it so much. Well, then Lyft slowly started getting rid of everything. And so I then was doing Uber because Uber is way more beneficial, you know? But since then, I've been very pro Uber, and Lyft definitely has died down. I think everybody knows that. They've done more pay cuts than Uber. They've just been craftier about it, more clever. But they're like, you know, both companies are in the same exact place. And so I always looked at it as, well, Uber still has surging. They still do bonuses. They're way more consistent. They have a bigger customer base. I was always like, well, why would you even do Lyft at this point? You know, it's like, so I really in the last like few months, especially, I've done Lyft incredibly minimally and focused more on Uber. But I've realized that has been a foolish mistake on my part, because a lot of times when I'm having really slow Uber days, I would just call it quits. And if I'd had Lyft running all day, I probably would have done just as well, if not better. So I think it's really, really important that, and I might be one of the only people that was doing this, but like I was really phasing back and cutting down on Lyft driving. And I'm actually going back to doing a good bit of it, or at least giving it a chance each day and seeing how Uber does, because we can't become too dependent on Uber, because that is the one problem with Uber is on big events, a lot of times an influx of drivers come out for it, and it just creates so much less demand. But then there's all of these Lyft rides that the Uber guys are all out there still trying to grind out their rides for their bonuses, and there's tons of Lyft rides. And Lyft doesn't really have incredible bonuses, but if they ever do have a 25 for 5 thing, that's a great thing. Just so you guys know the guarantees, I'm sure you've already noticed this yourself, but the guarantees Lyft does are really crap. Like, I think last weekend it was like 60 rides for $700. Like you're easily, no, 70 rides for a $700 guarantee. You're going to make that 750 rides. I would almost bet it. I mean, unless you drive in like only college towns, like, but those guarantees can be really, really crappy. I only use the guarantees when they're low. If it's like 20 rides, and then I'll do like 20 rides in a really fast area so that I'll make I'll make like $2 per ride, but I do it so quick that then I get the guarantee. That's the only time I do it. But those other guarantees are terrible. So that was a little bit too much rambling, but that's pretty much what I've got for you guys. Is just that don't quit entirely on Lyft. Save it for those really big Uber bonus days where for some reason it's slow. And I promise you Lyft will more than likely be popping off. But that's what I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Be sure to check out Play Octopus if you're a real serious driver and you're trying to make more money. Like, free apps, why would you not utilize them? But yeah, that's the video. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Got a lot more content coming for you guys soon, and I will talk to you all very, 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 very soon.